Universal Pictures is proud to present the motion picture directing debut of one of America's most talented and respected artists.
Cut! Cut, 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 cut! Oh, hello, kiddies. So glad you could join me. Your pal, the Crypt Keeper, has gone Hollywood in a big way. I'm directing my first feature film. Care for a little shriek preview? For my big scream premiere, I wanted lots of suspense.
Uh-oh.
Special effects, sex, violence. The kind of thing you could really sink your teeth into.
Hi!
Frights! Camera! Action! It's about a chase through the ages. A race against time. The war between good and evil.
Come on out, everybody! It's time to play!
And the final battle between man...
I'm sorry.
...and demon.
I'm not gonna hurt you. I lied.
It stars Billy Zane from Dead Calm, William Sadler from Die Hard 2, and Jada Pinkett from Menace to Society. Ooh, I love those titles. And you'll love Demon Knight.
They're here! The demons are here!
And ladies, if you think Demon Knight is too gross and yucky...
Whoa!
Thank you.
My name is Nelson George. I'm an old-time friend of Ernest and a very proud person to be introducing Ernest Dickerson. And before we do the Q&A, it's my pleasure to unveil the Leviathan Award. Oops, I told you. There you go.
Oh, this is so cool. BHFF, remember that? Wow. Okay, I have a special place for that on my shelves, which are mostly filled with blueberries.
So I've known Ernest since the 90s, and for me, my introduction to him was that many of you may know or may not know that he was like the DP for the first 5 Spike Lee feature films. He's Gonna Have It, School Days, the epic Do the Right Thing, Go Better Blues,
Go Better Blues,
and
Jungle Fever, and Malcolm X.
And Malcolm X. So,
But actually, before that, we were in film school together. We were at NYU, so I directed his graduate thesis film.
Joe's Bed-Stuy Barbershop, We Cut Heads, which was an amazing, if you can find it online, it's an amazing.
Which actually got me my first professional film with John Sayles. He saw it at a film festival and wanted me to shoot Brother from Another Planet. So that was my first professional gig.
So after doing all those Spike movies, and obviously they were all epic, and they really set him on, Spike on his journey, Ernest became a director in his own right, and he did Juice, starring Now that was obviously a fantastic, profound film, and obviously Tupac's legend is incredible, and that's a whole nother interview. But, so, that's 92.
Yeah.
So now you're looking for, what's your next film? Talk about that journey to this film.
Well, you know, I grew up looking at horror films. And actually, if you look at Juice, there are horror elements in Juice. You know, I loved how the filmmakers were able to make those films work. You know, one of my favorite filmmakers, inspirationally, was Alfred Hitchcock. You know, how he was able to put scenes together. Actually, how he used the camera to write. He wrote with the camera. And that was a major inspiration for me. So I was looking for a thriller. And the next film that I was able to get was called Surviving the Game. Yeah. And it was kind of like a twist on the famous short story by Richard Donald, Most Dangerous Game. And it starred Ice-T. I had a great cast. I had Ice-T, Rutger Hauer, Charles Dutton, F. Murray Abraham, Gary Busey, and it was a great thriller. And actually, it was while I was in post-production on that, while I was putting the sound mix together, I was interviewing for Demon Knight. And I brought the producers in to see that while we were putting the sound mix together in the studio. And that helped me get Demon Knight.
Now, you're walking into kind of a brand that had been established. It was on HBO, I believe, the Tales from the Crypt. What kind of guidance or leeway did you have in coming into something that's been established like that?
Honestly, I had never watched the show. Because I wasn't watching television, I was watching movies. And I was looking for a good horror film. And the original script for Demon Knight was not written as a Tales from the Crypt piece. It was supposed to be an independent horror film. And I got that script. I did not direct any of the Crypt Keeper stuff. That was all directed by Gil Adler, who was my producer, who was actually one of the best producers I've ever had. I honestly gotta give it to him, all the credit. But it was originally this film Demon Knight that, which I loved. I've always been a fan of cosmic horror. Cosmic horror to me is the stuff that scared me more than zombies and all that other stuff. And it was the closest thing I could find to it that was coming out. And I read it, and I wanted to do it, and I went in and interviewed on it, and I got the gig.
How different the script you originally got to the final version? How did your input change it or alter it?
The main concept of the demons was that they always took advantage. It was always like a trapped in a one location situation, and the demons always took advantage of the individual weaknesses of each and every person in there, and that's what they used against them. So that was like the main thing. And now, when I got the script, the demons were originally like people. They were almost like men and women in black. They were all wearing, dark shades and suits and everything. And my journey was really kind of crazy because my mother, who raised me, she wasn't a great horror film fan, but I got her first role in Juice. So, and she had retired, and she always wanted to find a new film. And so she played Sweets, the character that gives Q, if you know the movie, the character gives Q his gun. That was my mom. So the next movie I did, Surviving the Game, she played a lady in the very beginning, who is in a car that hits a dog, and she screams and she goes out. Okay, so my mom always said, well, when I told her I had a new movie, she said, what's my part? I said, oh, Mom, I don't know about this. I don't know if I could put you in a suit and, be, shooting you and knocking you downstairs and stuff. And she kind of dug that. But, but while we were in development and we started to really figure out the look of the show, and I wanted to come up with something other than that. And so the idea of the demons being these creatures that came out of the blood of the collector. That's when we started, and we came up with these. I worked with Todd Masters, who was the makeup and visual and makeup effects designer, and we came up with these demons that we came up with, and that's who you see in the film. He he slits his hand, and from the blood these demons are born, and we really wanted to do something that we felt we had not seen before. And so we really cast these really, really thin mime actors to play these roles. And they would play them in the prosthetics with radio-controlled tails that would wiggle and stuff. And the hardest part was getting them to be able to work on leg extensions. Those, the way the feet kind of come out. They actually had to practice for weeks on those leg extensions.
How to walk in them?
Yeah, how to walk in them. The toughest part for them was climbing stairs. walking upstairs, but they did a great job. And so that's how those demons came about.
No CGI.
No. The only CGI in the show is the composites of the Crypt Keeper and the stuff that Gil Adler directed in the beginning. But no, this is all practical. Some visual effects is all shot on film. This is way before digital. And so, so we did it that way and shot it all. It all takes place at night. If you've ever worked in production, shooting nights is horrible. Especially if you're gonna have to shoot 40 nights. 40 nights in the desert?
But even the stuff inside that wasn't a soundstage? The interior?
The interior was all soundstage. Yeah, I mean, so basically what I was able to do, one of the first things I talked to my producers was, I said, come on, man, we cannot shoot 40 nights. I mean, the crews are gonna fall apart. It's gonna be horrible. Is there any way we can shoot on a soundstage? And so the whole idea was where we could find a soundstage big enough to accommodate this. We actually found a decommissioned airplane hangar in Van Nuys Airport. And we built the church. The idea that I came up with my production designer, Christian Wagner, who had designed Surviving the Game previously, was it had to be, this motel, but we came up with the idea of making an ex-church, an old church that had been, turned into something else. And so we found a decommissioned airplane hangar on Van Nuys Airport, and we built the whole thing there. And it was built so that the exterior could be seen from one angle, and then when you go inside, and he built the interior as well, with the rooms inside as well. So it was like, the exterior from one angle, from the outside, and then when you go in, you can shoot stuff from inside looking outside, and then all the, the rooms up there and everything else.
So we're seeing it, the back of it is basically the dark airplane hangar, like the.
Yeah. It all went. Yeah, the widest shot was a visual effects stuff, a visual effects shot, where Breaker and Dick Miller, Uncle Willie, are walking towards it. We see the lightning in the background, and he looks at his hand and he sees that this is the place he needs to be. And so that was a visual effects shot, but the rest of it was all done in that one soundstage, which helped greatly because we could have regular hours for the crew, and we had regular 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Shooting stuff. And it was crazy because while we were shooting, the whole OJ on the 405 chase out. My sound man actually had a little television set, and while we were shooting, he was watching the whole OJ chase.
Like was it summer '94? The OJ chase.
Yeah, I guess that was it. Yeah.
Because I was at Nick game when that happened. And they were playing the final playing Houston at the Garden. It was crazy. Let's talk about the cast, which is kind of. I saw a tape just yesterday of Billy Zane, and he was talking about he'd seen Robin Williams in Aladdin, and that inspired a lot of his performance. What do you remember about that?
Well, the thing is, I had seen Billy in a movie called Deep Calm. I think it was Deep Calm.
Oh, the
Australian film.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And the amazing thing about that movie, okay, Billy Zane, he's a beautiful man. Excuse my French, but he's a beautiful motherfucker. And the fact that he was able to play this really beautiful cat who was so psychotic and creepy and scary, I loved that film. I loved what he did with it. So when we were talking, when I was in casting sessions and talking about who could play the collector, and Billy's name came up, it hit me. I said, yeah, because a demon should be seductive. A demon should be beautiful. A demon should be so handsome that it just pulls you in. And it just felt right to me. So he came in, when he came in, now I'd always seen Billy with hair. Turned out they were wigs. So Billy came in.
Naturally bald?
Yeah, he was when he came in. He came in the door and he was bald. And he says, okay, and he had a suitcase full of wigs. And he was like, okay, well, which wig do you want me to wear? And he's putting this on, putting that on. And I'm looking at him and said, no, man, go natural. And that's what we did. And he really loved doing that. He appreciated that. Because it was almost like having to put wigs on was like a hassle for him. And it really freed him up, and it was, and that was the start of a great working relationship through the film, because to me, as a director, the thing that I know the most, the mantra that I've gotten the most out of is that 85 to 90% of directing is casting. You cast the right person for the role, all you gotta do is like sit back and watch it happen. Maybe make a couple of adjustments here and there. But the cast that I was able to put together for this film was truly amazing.
Oh yeah, I want CC Pounder.
Yeah, CC.
It's not a bad, every line reading was incredible. And she found every ounce of humor in every moment. I was so impressed.
Yeah.
But you had like a great cast of people who, William Sadler's a guy who worked a lot in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah. Usually playing bad guys.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's usually the heavy. So how did he end up being the sort of the hero sort of?
He was great. I had seen him in what was the movie that he did with?
Trespass?
Yeah, Trespass. He did a great job. But Trespass. But he also played a bad guy in was it Die Hard 2, which is a movie that I don't like, but I think he did a great job. And he came in and really had a feel for the character, because the thing about Breaker is that he is the hero on the surface, but he has to have that haunted quality. He has to have that tired, haunted, I'm done with this, I just want to get this over and done with quality, which he did a brilliant job in. And he was great to work with. So him and Gary Farmer.
Yeah.
Gary, Native American actor who really did a brilliant job. And he added that comedic element to it, because he
Which
came.
character is it for people?
Well, he was the deputy. He was the deputy. And so even some of the takes that he did, which I was never able to find out if he did them on purpose, like when they toss him the keys and he drops them. But in editing we said, oh, that works, let's keep it. But he was just so great to work with. And then
Let's talk about the casting of Geraldine and the
Yeah.
journey to Jada.
yeah, well, in the cast, the script was the race of the characters in the script was not designated. And so I was determined to put a sister in the role. The studio wanted Cameron Diaz. But the thing that I was going for, I wanted, honestly, truthfully, I wanted to see a film where a black woman saves the world. But also, I knew that putting a black woman in that role at that time, most people would feel that she was going to die early. Because usually in those movies, in those times, the black characters were the first ones to go. They were the first ones to, okay, they're gone. And then they can move on with the story. And I felt that she would be, the fact that she winds up being the next Demon Knight, the inheritor of this awesome legacy, I just felt would just elevate the film. And Jada pulled it off. She really was with it. When I read the script and I wanted to find somebody who was small of stature, small but tough. I didn't know who I was going to get for this until I saw Menace to Society.
Yeah.
I saw her in Menace to Society. I said, that's her. And that's when I had to go after her. I had to really get her. I had to sell her to Joel Silver.
Oh, Joel Silver, if you don't know, was the leading action movie producer of the era.
Like Die Hard,
Lethal
and,
Weapon.
Yeah, Lethal Weapon.
He was a very Hollywood guy.
Yeah, I mean, really, I mean, notoriously a yeller and a screamer, and it's like, you doing that while you're not at all, you know, that kind of thing, you know. So they wanted Cameron Diaz, and I said, that's not gonna work, because nobody's gonna believe she's gonna die. Nobody can believe that she, you know, could not possibly survive the story. And so I called Jada, I talked to her, and sent her the script. She said she wanted to do it. I said, okay, I gotta sell you to Joel. And, you know, I talked to her, and basically I coached her. And I said, okay, you gotta go in and talk to him.
Yeah, that was a hell of a meeting, yeah.
So we went into Warner Brothers Studios, and Gil Adler and Alan Katz, who were the producers from Tales from the Crypt, who were the producers on this movie, they were like totally in my corner. I honestly gotta say, Gil Adler was one of the best producers I've ever had in my life. For the most part, he gave me everything that I wanted. Everything that I wanted to do with that, he let me do it. And so he loved Jada, he saw the film, he saw Menace to Society, and so I just had to sell her to Joel Silver. And she went in and talked with him. I'm sitting outside the office, and she went in, and I said, okay, Jada, do your thing, baby, do your thing, come on. And she came out, and she said, okay, I think it worked, and it did work. And she, you know, she's amazing in it. It's one of the best things I've ever done in my life, I gotta swear.
Well, here's what's interesting, hip-hop history-wise. She grew up and went to acting school
With Tupac. Yeah.
They were classmates and had the same acting coach, in fact, in
In Baltimore School of the Arts.
So it's so ironic that you went from Tupac and skip over to Jada, because they literally came out of the same. Also, the toughness that Jada has inherently just radiates in the character. You believe her from the first time she comes on screen.
Yeah. Well, you know, I felt that somebody that had that toughness, that had that street smarts, was the only person that could survive to be the next Demon Knight. And actually, I wish we had done a sequel. I wish we could have done a sequel.
Yeah.
You know, because it would have been great to see the further adventures of Geraldine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was curious also, you're a legendary DP.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're doing a horror movie, which is obviously a high level of cinematic. You need to push it. Talk about the DP you selected and you know, working with them.
Honestly, a lot of the crew that I got was from the Tales from the Crypt show. The only person I was able to bring in was Christian Wagner, who was my production designer. Rick Boda was the cinematographer on the Tales from the Crypt TV show. Todd Masters, the makeup effects designer, he was from Tales from the Crypt. Everybody else was from Tales from the Crypt. The thing that, you know, going in, I know the language that cinematographers need to know to do the job. So, you know, maybe Rick might have been worried that I was going to tell him to do his job in the beginning, but no, I wasn't going to do that. We would talk mood, we would talk color, atmosphere, what was required for every individual scene, and then I would just let him go. You know, I would make a suggestion here or there, but I would never, ever, ever, as a director, tell a cinematographer, a fellow brother cinematographer, how to do their job. But I feel that once we discuss what is needed for the film, they know what to do. So he knew, you know, the darkness, you know, how to take it, you know, when the lights go out, how to take it dark and everything, and it was a good working relationship.
So, we are wrapping up, but I need to set up the next movie because we both have a personal connection to it. Death by Temptation was shot here in Brooklyn, shot primarily in Fort Greene, for a very low budget.
It was shot in a brownstone owned by Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah. Well, so I'm an executive producer on it because James Bond III, who was in School Days he worked with, brought it to me, and I knew post She's Gotta Have It, everybody wanted to make an independent movie. So I knew a record producer guy, an executive who wanted to put money in a movie. His name was Charles Huggins. He managed Freddie Jackson, Melville Moore, a bunch of people.
He was married to Melville Moore, wasn't he?
He was.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, I hooked him up. And the accounting of the money was a little funny. But I was very happy because I knew when he told me Ernest Dickerson was going to shoot it for him, which I was a little dubious about it. Like, really? He's going to do that? So can you talk about how you ended up on Death by Temptation?
Well, when we were doing School Days, Spike's Film School Days in Atlanta, James Bond III was one of the actors on the film, came up to me and told me he wanted to do this horror film. I'm like, yeah, okay, all right. Well, tell me about it when you're ready to get it going, okay? Little did I know, but you know, a couple of years later, he's actually got funding for it and he wants to do it. And you know, I needed a job. And
the budget was what? It was a couple hundred.
It was a neighborhood horror film.
Yeah.
It was really shot, you know, in the Fort Greene neighborhood within like a 5-block radius.
So Fishburne is so funny because I remember he was living in an apartment initially on St. James Place, a block from where Biggie grew up, and he was always trying to buy a house, and he bought this brownstone.
Yeah.
And so and I also think it was the production office was in here too, right?
I think we crammed everything into that one.
So you thought it was a lot of it was shot inside a bar on DeKalb Avenue.
Yeah, well,
Well,
yeah,
just that-
well, it wound up being 2 bars.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, that's the craziest thing about independent film. We started shooting in this one bar, and we had a great day of shooting, and it was a great bar. It had like a long room, a long bar, you know, with the lights and everything. I was able to like really create this great place with great depth and everything, with smoke and everything, and it was a lot of fun as a cinematographer. Okay, shot the first day. We go in for the second day of shooting. We show up. We're waiting. We're waiting to be let in. The guy that has the keys to open up the place. We're waiting. And we're waiting. And we're waiting. And we're waiting. And the guy never showed up. I guess the bar owner realized, when he was letting a movie crew into his bar, he didn't realize what he was getting himself into. He found out about it and hated it and did not let us shoot the second day. So that's why the bars changed, because we wound up having to go to a second bar.
You went to 2 steps down.
Yeah, which didn't have the depth. It was a much flatter place and was much less exciting for me as a cinematographer, you know, so, but you know, that's what we were stuck with.
And there's like also another interesting, like Spike Lee, She's Gonna Have a connection, because John Campbell Terrell, who's one of the 3 lovers, and She's Gonna Have It, is in it. Bill Nunn, who was famously Ready Raheem and Do the Right Thing, is in it.
And it was also in School Days.
It's also School.
Yeah.
I think there's another actor. Sam Jackson.
Well, Sam Jackson.
Sam Jackson.
Yeah, Sam Jackson's in it. Yeah.
Very early Sam Jackson. It was funny about that you shot this between School Days and Do the Right Thing.
Yeah, actually, I shot it right before Do the Right Thing. It was several months before Do the Right Thing. Yeah, because some of my crew that I brought in on that worked with me on Do the Right Thing.
That's crazy. Well, there's a lot more we can talk to Ernest about. Death by Temptation's coming up. Also, there's other horror genre films that he's worked on. Bones. And you guys, just quickly, you talk about some other, you've done a lot of TV stuff.
Tales from the Dark. Well, no, Walking Dead. I did.
I'm Walking Dead.
The first 5 seasons of Walking Dead, I did 11 episodes of that. And then I did an episode of The Masters of Horror, which unfortunately was, you know, the anthology show that was discontinued. So horror and science fiction is something I've always been very, very, very interested in. This is stuff I used to look at when I was younger, and I read it. I still read it. I did the second season of a show called Raised by Wolves.
Great show.
A science fiction show. I did the first 2 episodes of the second season, which was an offer I could not refuse. They called me up and said, look, it takes place in an entirely different section of the planet, the tropical zone, so you can change the whole look of the show. And I'm like, down. I'm down. I'm in it.
Now, we should mention your graphic novel before we wrap.
Yeah. My wife and I wrote a script. It's a film that we want to make called No Face. And any horror film fans who here know about the famous French horror film called Yeux sans visage, Eyes Without a Face. So we wrote a script about what if one of the ladies who got her face taken away decides she wants to get it back. And she'll do anything to do that. And she has some martial arts expertise. And she finds out that her face has been given to an aging rock star who, through too much bad plastic surgery and drugs, his face has just gone to pot. But also, in that happening to her, she finds out that there's a much deeper thing going on that actually threatens the future of the human race.
So is this something that people can?
Well, it's a script that we want to make the movie, but there's a graphic novel series called Noir is the New Black, which is noir stories by African American creators. And this is the second edition of it, and we have an 11-page origin story of No Face. No, the N-O-H, the Japanese no mask, because when she gets her face cut off, she hides it with a Japanese no mask. And the thing about Japanese no masks is that they were always designed so that depending upon how the head was tilted, different expressions would come up. And so, it's a noir horror story. No Face, N-O-H-F-A-C-E.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Ernest Dickerson.